Order, please, and begin with the pledge of allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead. I'm in. We're going to get smaller chairs or something. I don't know. Like Tetris. Okay, public notice was given for this meeting. We're going to proceed with school board policy, and I would start with the roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Mr. Christmas? Here. Mr. Fedorcha?
Here.
Ms. Franz?
Here.
Ms. Husak? Here. Mr. Kern?
Here.
Ms. Culp?
Here.
Ms. Snyder?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? Did you pull the sheet?
I do have the sheet, and no one signed up that they would like to speak on public, or on agenda items, rather.
Thank you. Okay, you've all received copies of the board meeting held on May 13th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dorcher, second. Can I hear Chad?
Yes.
No? Okay, thank you. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And so ordered. Special board report, CLIU. Ms. Husak?
Thank you. We did have our May board meeting, and a couple things had come up. Just a reminder, in just 2 weeks, June 18th, we will be having our golf tournament for the Special Needs Children's Foundation. I promise next month I'll just tell you how it goes. But again, Dr. Stoker is coming, so thank you very much. I appreciate you supporting the Special Needs Children's Foundation, and looking forward to being there and seeing how that goes this year. Last I heard, 105 golfers have signed up so far, so a really great event. Looking forward to continuing to that sponsorship. Through that organization, we have some therapy dogs, service dogs coming into our buildings. We have 2 of them currently. We also do adaptive bikes for a lot of our students, and as needed, those special needs children's, if there's things that come up through family items required, that goes through that organization as well. So all of those donations are really well appreciated. We also had our election of our board officers. They did remain the same. President is George Williams out of the Whitehall School District, Vice President Sherry Hawes out of the Palmerton School District, and myself as treasurer supporting the officers at the IU. And the last thing that was really interesting and really exciting for us, we took out a new lease that hopefully come December, what we would call our ALAS and our LCEA program, our early enhanced autism program. They are being moved from their current locations to a building just outside of Center Valley. So as you kind of get off, it's right there on the building. It used to be the old Bubba Lentz building. So we're hoping to have that outfitted and ready to go for our students beginning in December. So we're really excited for that transition. Easy on and off for our buses and things like that. So really excited for those changes coming up. Our next meeting is next Monday, 6:30 at the IU board office. So feel free to join if you choose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Husak. LCTI.
Thank you. I too was reelected as treasurer this year. I'm very happy for that. We had our senior awards program that went over very well, and that was on May 30th. We also have a few students who will be going to nationals on their competitions. There are some from Northern Lehigh that are going, possibly going to be going also. We'll know the winners of them at the next meeting. And also we have our surplus sale, if you're interested in that, and that is July 18th at LCTI. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Any legislative report?
I actually do have some stuff tonight.
All right.
I don't often get to say much about it, so you guys have to bear with me tonight because I have a lot. The Senate and House of Representatives were in session last week and will be returning to session this week. Negotiations for the 2024-25 state budget are currently underway at the Capitol as the deadline for June 30th spending plan nears. PSBA is asking members to join a 3-week campaign to reach out to your legislatures on critical budget issues. The campaign has been underway since May 30th. The first week consisted of asking legislatures to oppose the taxpayer-funded vouchers for private schools. The second week, which is this week through June 13th, ask your legislators to support significant investments for public education in the 24-25 state budget. And the third week's campaign talking points will be released on June 13th. PSBA provides information and sample letters for you to take action. They provide a messaging platform that makes it easy to send communication to legislatures, so please take a few moments of your time to send these letters. Week 1's issue is also still active if you would like to send a letter to your legislator asking them to oppose the taxpayer-funded voucher. Some other things going on. Last week, the House of Representatives moved the debate on basic education funding and charter reforms with the passage of HB 2370. The bill awaits final consideration before moving to the Senate. And then items that were presented to the governor included observance of September 11th in schools and rural PA revitalization. Items passed by the Senate, there's the PA Nurse Aid Training Program and high school credit for employment at congregate care facilities. This would allow high school juniors and seniors to earn one elective credit toward their graduation requirement for each 250 hours worked on a paid or voluntary basis in a congregate care, healthcare setting. A maximum of 2 credits may be earned. And then passed by the House of Representatives, accessibility to menstrual hygiene products, which creates a grant program to provide eligible public school entities with funding to make these products accessible at no expense to students. Funds may be used for installing and maintaining a dispensing machine or disposal receptacles for those products. Schools that would be eligible for the grant would have to have at least 25% of students enrolled who are eligible for free or reduced cost lunch. The other items that were passed by the House of Representatives is the mental health awareness, which requires the State Board of Education to revise the existing state standards for health, safety, and physical education to address student mental health awareness. The Department of Education and Department of Health shall jointly develop or identify a model curriculum and a list of education materials which schools may use. Schools must notify students, parents, athletic staff, and extracurricular advisors twice each school year of the mental health services available within the school entity or community and how the services may be accessed. The Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association must revise the required training courses for coaches to incorporate the training standards adopted by the School Safety and Security Committee relating to behavioral health awareness, suicide and bullying awareness, and substance abuse awareness. Parents will need to complete the required health form that will be updated by the Department of Health. And then approved by the House State Government Committee, pension fund fee transparency imposes new transparency and reporting requirements on PSERS and SERS. The bill requires the live streaming of all PSERS and SERS public board meetings and committee meetings and expands access to investment materials utilized, as well as increasing performance fee reporting, particularly fees associated with carried interest. And then lastly, I got a little bit more to go. Approved by the House of Education Committee, asthma medication in schools allows schools in PA to stock inhalers that would be provided by the school nurse to students. Schools would be able to get a prescription from a physician and may seek funding to purchase a supply of the medication. And then there's the CPR AED requirements for schools. This repeals existing language and replaces it with extensive new language on AED and CPR instruction and procedures. Mandatory training for seizure recognition requires school nurses and professional employees to complete an approved course of instruction regarding awareness of seizures and related first aid. Then there's diabetes education and notification, which directs the Department of Education to develop informational materials for parents about warning signs of type 1 diabetes. School officials must make the information available in writing, electronically, or on the website to parents when a student is first enrolled in elementary school, and again when students enter into 6th grade. Then there's the portable airway clearance devices, which requires schools to provide at least one portable airway clearance device in each cafeteria and in school nurses' offices. Schools must develop guidelines for the use of the devices, and nurses must receive training in the use of the devices. That's all I have. I'm sorry if it was a lot.
That's it?
That's it.
Well, you don't talk much, but when you get out there, I'm telling you. Okay, Lehigh Carpenter Community College, the governor is still ruffling a lot of feathers about the combining of LTRIC, the PASHI system, et cetera. They're looking at, they're gonna have this committee and that committee and this group and that group, although the legislatures are still saying it's dead on arrival, the governor is still pushing it. I don't know, there was supposed to be legislation introduced on Friday by Representative Schreier from our area, who's chair of the Education Committee. I don't know if that ever happened or not. I didn't hear anything, so, but that's still stirring around out there, and I don't know where it's going. And the bad news is I was not elected treasurer of LTRIC. So what can I say? You know, but I wasn't even nominated. But, okay, you've all got a bunch of committee reports that you got there from our committee meeting. And I don't see any student reps tonight, so we'll pass through that. Attorney Reed?
No report.
No report, okay. Dr. Stoker?
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. At your places and for the public out at the table, there are the ESSER grant spending update for the month. That carries us through the end of May. With regard to spending, it's very similar to what we typically spend each month. Under ESSER 3 for salary and benefits, it paid for the educational technology curriculum and instruction administrator, a kindergarten teacher, our technology integration specialist, and our ESSER paras. We also paid for the rental of the hotspots and our nurse at Peters. Lastly, with regard to the after-school grant under ESSER 3B, that continued to pay for high school after-school tutoring. And that's all the spending that occurred for the ESSER funds for up through May. The next thing on the agenda this evening is the end-of-the-year local data presentation. Mr. Haas, if you'd cue that up. So good evening, everybody. We are going to go through the end-of-the-year data snapshot. We, in October, went through the beginning of the year. Around March, we carried through the middle of the year, and at this point, we're ready to talk about our end-of-the-year local data. This is not state data, this is our local assessments. Next slide, please. Mr. Schneiderite's not able to be with us tonight, so I'm going to cover the Peters data first. This slide reflects the entire 23-24 school year. The Dibbles Next assessment examines early literacy skills. For some direction in reading this data, if we look from the left to the right, you can see 3 columns reflecting the 3 testing periods. The far left is the beginning of the year, the middle column is the middle of the year, and the far right is the end of the year. From top to bottom, you will see kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and then at the very bottom, the combination of all of those grades within the school. Within the data, you'll see 3 colors. Green, which is core support, meaning no interventions necessary for students to be successful. Yellow, which is strategic support, which strategic interventions are necessary to assist students. And red, which are intensive support, intensive interventions are necessary to assist students. So you can think of it like a stoplight. What we hope is that we have an increase in green, which is the core support, and a decrease in red, the intensive support, as we look from left to right, from the beginning of the year, through the middle of the year, to the end of the year. At each grade level, this is what we see. In kindergarten, at the beginning of the year, 53% of students were core support, and at the end of the year, 84% were considered core support. That's a growth of 31%. Also in kindergarten, at the beginning of the year, 29% of the students were considered intensive support, and at the end, only 2 were considered intensive support. That's a 27% improvement. It is important to note that the test gets more difficult as the year goes on. So as we move from the beginning through the end of the year, the test does get a little bit more difficult. In first grade, at the beginning of the year, 47% of students were considered core support, and at the end of the year, 59% were considered core support. That's a 12% growth in the green area. Also in first grade, at the beginning of the year, 26% of the students were considered intensive support, and at the end, 20% were considered intensive support. That's a 6% improvement. In second grade, at the beginning of the year, 61% of the students were considered core support, and at the end of the year, 71 were considered core support. That's 10% growth in the green. Also in second grade, at the beginning of the year, 29% of students were considered intensive support, that's in the red, and at the end of the year, 16% were considered intensive support. That's a 13% improvement, or moving of those students from the lower levels up to the higher levels. So as a school, Peters saw 18% growth in core support, or green. It went from 53% to 71% from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And a 16% improvement in intensive support in the red, when it went from 28% of the students there to 12% at the end of the year. Next slide, please. Next, we'll examine the Imagine Math data at Peters Elementary School. For math, it's a little bit different. There are 5 categories. Advanced is orange, proficient is green, basic is yellow, below basic is red, and far below basic is blue. What we'd hope to see from the beginning of the year to the end of the year is a growth in the advanced and proficient, or the orange and green, and a reduction in the other 3 colors. This is the kindergarten slide. This slide shows growth in proficiency from the beginning to the middle of the year by 26.3%, with 32.4% of students being proficient. And then by the end of the year, 63.5% of students in kindergarten were proficient, and 1.5% were advanced. This is a 32.6% growth from just the middle of the year, and a 58.9% growth from the beginning of the year. This is clearly evident by looking at the green at the beginning of the year compared to the green and orange at the end of the year. And you can see that that slice of the pie is almost 3/4 of the pie chart. Next slide, please. This slide shows data for first grade for math at Peters. This slide shows growth in proficiency from the beginning to the middle of the year by 28.4%, with 73.1% of students being proficient. By the end of the year, 91.6% of students in first grade were proficient, and 1.5% were advanced. This is a 20% growth from just the middle of the year, and a 48.4% growth from the beginning of the year. Again, if we look at just the colors and we look at orange and green together, you can see it was about half, a little less than half at the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, almost the entire pie was covered. Okay, next slide please, second grade. This slide shows growth in proficiency in second grade from the beginning to middle of the year by 20.3%, with 78.2% of students being proficient. By the end of the year, 79% of students in second grade were proficient and 11% advanced. This is an 11.8% growth from just the middle of the year, and 32.1% growth from the beginning of the year. Again, if we look solely at the colors, and we look at green and orange together, you can see that that covers most of that pie chart again. So we're moving a lot of students out of the red and yellow and into the green and orange areas. Okay, next slide please. Moving on to Slatington. Mr. Briner is unable to be here with us this evening, so I will present his data as well. These graphs look a bit different from what you saw at Peters. Slatington Elementary School has, looking at the IXL data, the dark green is above grade level, the green is on grade level, the yellow is below, the orange is far below, and the green means not pinpointed. So Slatington Elementary School saw positive growth in IXL data throughout the school year in math. From the beginning of the year, there was an increase of 9% in the categories of above grade level and on grade level achievement, that's the green, as well as an overall decrease in both below grade level and far below grade level, that's the yellow and orange, while the percentages in all categories were similar from the mid-year snapshot to January to the snapshot in March. There was a shift in the number of students who moved from far below grade level to on grade level, and from on grade level to above grade level. So we're moving students. This is what we want to see happening when the number of students is decreasing in the red and yellow and increasing in the green and dark green. Unfortunately, we also saw a slight increase in the number of students not pinpointed, that's in the gray, during this snapshot due to special education progress monitoring needs at the time and attendance during the snapshot window, which had a slight impact on overall percentages. So that is something that Slatington is going to look at scheduling for next year to make sure that we get as many students tested as we can so we have their data throughout the year. Next slide, please. Slatington Elementary saw positive growth in IXL data throughout the school year in ELA. From the mid-year snapshot in January to the snapshot in March, they saw an overall increase in above grade level and on grade level categories of 5%. This resulted in decreases in the total number of students who were far below grade level and below grade level. Overall, the beginning of the year, they saw an increase of 14% in the categories of above grade level and on grade level achievement, and an overall decrease in both below grade level and far below grade level categories. Again, there was a slight increase in the number of students not pinpointed during the final snapshot due to the special education progress monitoring needs at the time and the attendance during that snapshot window. Overall, Slatington reports that they were happy with the increases and results seen in the IXL data and the use of the program as a whole. Due to some scheduling changes for 24-25 school year, they will be using IXL slightly differently, but it will continue to be a strong piece of the instructional and assessment arsenal moving forward. It will also provide useful consistency in data grades 2 through 12. I'll now hand things over to Mr. Hauser, who will present the middle school data.
Thank you, Dr. Stoker. Good evening, everyone, board administration and public. Excuse me. As you can see, the middle school data is now projected with the same type of graphics that we had for Slatington Elementary. This data represents the levels of students prior to PSSA testing in the spring. So we're not looking at exactly a full year of instruction, more adequately put about 75%, 80% of the year. In this, we had 211 middle school students who were up to date and properly measured in IXL, particularly for, this is math, excuse me. Got it. This data shows some students moving into higher levels of achievement, but what is not reflected in this graphic is students who are moving upward but staying in a particular level of proficiency. So for example, students who might be in that yellow basic area showed a good amount of growth, but the growth that they showed, they're still considered in that basic area, not necessarily moving into a whole new level of proficiency. So after the final snapshot, I did run reports to look at data on a class-by-class basis. So what I found looking at class by class, and this is for our Tier 1 instruction across all of our kind of just regular classes we would schedule, Math 7, Math 8. We ran a total of between 10 and 12 total sections of Math 7 and 8 throughout the year, not including learning support. Now, some classes were merged during that time due to some staffing adjustments we had earlier in the school year, so that does fluctuate between 10 and 12 sections, depending on when I pull the data. So 10 sections appear in IXL by the end of the year for me to adequately look at different groups of students. Of those 10, all 10 showed positive growth in math throughout the year. 5 out of 10 actually exceeded the expected growth as it is measured by IXL at the time of the final snapshot. 2 other classrooms met the expected growth level or came very, very close to it. And the other showed approximately about a half a year of growth as measured by IXL. We did run multiple remediation classes during the first and second marking period with emphasis on those students who tested far below grade level. In the third marking period, we shifted our focus a little bit, and we focused more on the students who were considered what we call bubble kids. These are students who might be a high basic, a low proficient, but they're on the cusp of kind of emerging into a new area of proficiency. That's also measured by the PVAS system. We looked at projections on our data-days to see who exactly those students were. And so we formed some targeted groups based on, targeted enrichment sections based on those groups. If I can switch to ELA. Thank you. 205 students were properly up to date and measured by this snapshot. And the similar trend occurs where we have, you'll see some movement here between the different colors, but most of our growth occurs within the same category of proficiency. So just like in math, after the final snapshot around the third marking period, I did look at the kind of growth in the total Tier 1 sections. So we ran a total of 13 sections in ELA between 7th and 8th grade. Out of those, all 13 showed positive growth throughout the year, although some was not as pronounced as it was in others. 2 out of the 13 exceeded the expected growth by the time of the final snapshot, and 3 other classrooms met the growth level expected or came very, very close. The remaining classrooms all were about that half year's worth of growth target. So also, just like in mathematics, we did run bubble sections of students. So I'd like to talk a little bit about our Tier 2, our sort of targeted support for students. At the mid-year, we did add, again, the focus on that bubble group, and we identified students during our data days, our Act 80 days, using PVAS, who were projected to be near proficient. And in some cases, that can go either way. Identified students were also not showing a lot of change in their IXL throughout the year. They were kind of stagnant. So we targeted those students who seemingly were not responding and were expecting to be right in the middle of that road. So this was particularly true in 8th grade. And if you look back at 8th grade PSSAs, we kind of see a historical trend of that achievement stagnation represented in our overall numbers. That's where we focused most of our energies. We had very good results. Looking at the preliminary data that's been released about this year's PSSAs, if it holds accurate, it will show that just under 2/3 of those bubble students actually scored proficient or advanced. 72% of the 8th grade students who scored proficient or advanced in the grade, 72% of those were actually from this bubble group of targeted instruction, which was excellent. So we had a good payoff there. In ELA, 95% of the students who were in these targeted groups of bubble kids scored proficient or advanced, and 30% of the overall proficient or advanced were from that quote-unquote bubble class. So we did put more effort into really targeting those students who were on the cusp again of emerging into that on-grade level or above, and that seemingly did pay off if those preliminary numbers hold true. I'll take any questions on the middle school. Hearing none, I'll pass things over to Dr. Bowley.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser. Good evening, everybody. I had to bring my computer up because I have trouble seeing that far. Good to see you as always. So for the high school, we're going to start with math, our algebra group of students. So this is a little bit different than the other slides that were presented to you, but what we wanted to show you, these are neat slides because it shows you growth, what Mr. Hauser was talking about. You can't always really see within certain categories, like below basic kids, far below grade level, moving in that area. But you can see here. So if you look at the fall cohort there, it shows the fall cohort data as well as the spring cohort data. So that's a semester, that's basically a full year for our kids. Fall is one, spring is the other. You see in the fall a plus 64. So that is basically saying that the students on average grew about 6.4 months over that semester. And then in the spring, you can see that we are, on average, our students scored beyond grade level. So 100 points is that year's worth of growth. So you have kids who maybe did plus 200, plus 300, and then you have kids who also maybe were below that, so the average was plus 107. So that was some good data there. Mr. Haas, if you could move on to the next one. So same slide here. It is just showing our literature group. This slide displays the fall cohort data as well as the spring. In the fall, students grew on average 5.4 months over the entire semester. In the spring, they grew at the rate equivalent to 8 months. Remember, 100 is 1 school year. And what is also neat on these slides is you can see the skills that were mastered, skills proficient, the number of skills that were practiced. For instance, if you look at the spring cohort for literature, you can see there that 4,723 of the ELA literature skills practiced. The students were proficient in those. And then you can also see how many were mastered. And you can drill deeply down into that to see exactly what it is. So if you go to the next slide, Mr. Haas, this is our IXL algebra information for the spring. This shows our first benchmark, which was in January, our second, which was in March, and our last one, which was right around the same time as Keystone. So the current levels of students as reported in this data shows gains, particularly in reducing the number of students showing achievement in the far below grade level, which is the red. We're also seeing more students moving up to the on level and above grade level, which is blue, green and blue. We run, just so you know, and we've shared this before, we run data meetings after each benchmark and during faculty meetings. So this is a snapshot which is given 3 times per semester. However, the teachers they can do a real-time snapshot at any time. And our work next year, and I know the middle school is as well, I think they're a little bit further ahead than the high school is with IXL with this. But when we give the real-time snapshots, that's really going to be the data that's going to drive our daily instruction. And Ms. Dunham, who has done a great job with our staff this year, and I know through the district, is really going to help us working with teachers and what does this look like. So, you know, this group of students is struggling here. How do I target my instruction? How do I differentiate my instruction to hit, as Mr. Hauser was saying, those bubble kids, those below level kids, those above level kids? We've got to keep them moving. And oftentimes, not that we forget about them, but we don't worry as much when we need to keep challenging them as well. Mr. Haas, can we move to the IXL ELA Lit slide? Again, current levels of students as reported on these benchmarks, January, March, May, show that we're reducing the number of students in the far below, which is red. We're also seeing more students moving up to on and above. You want to see that green and blue getting bigger. You want to see the red getting smaller. And again, you know, this is kind of deceiving sometimes because you really can't see those kids that stay in that category but move maybe from one end to the other. And then finally, our CDT data for biology. Now, something I want to make sure that we understand here is that this is data for students. The course that they took this spring was ecology and cell processes. They have not taken the bio course yet. However, we still were giving them the CDT bio. So even though you don't see a ton of green there, they grew and they haven't even really had the bio course yet. Most students will take that biology course this coming fall, and then they will test in the winter. So you can see, I just wanted to make sure that that was explained. So really, they have no knowledge of the second half of the section, which is the bio course. So that's that information there. And I think that is all we have. Dr. Stoker.
It'll be good to see the difference next semester.
Yes, exactly. I was glad we saw growth without even being taught those skills yet, so
We'll
thank
see
you.
a lot more, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. Yes. So that is the comprehensive annual data presentation for 23-24 just for our local data. Our test scores at the state level are starting to roll in now. We have preliminary PSSA data, which I've shared out with the board. We expect to have the preliminary Keystone data for the spring coming in at the end of the month. WIDA assessments just came in as well at the end of May. So we're starting to get a lot of that annual state testing data. Hopefully we can do our annual presentation on that data a little bit earlier this year. We'd still be waiting on our PVAS and when the state decides to release the PA Future Ready Index. So whenever those things are all available, we'll be giving our presentation. I think last year we did that in January. We're hopeful we can do it in the late fall, late winter this year. Thank you. That's all I have. Yep.
Thank you. Where are we at? Superintendent's report, Dr. Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Tonight, I would like to start off each year at this time. We acknowledge some of our students that take the Act 35 civics exam. This time around, we had 7 students who scored perfect on the civics exam this year. Those 7 students are Brody Benson, Wildery Mata Mariano, Devin Peters, Andrew Trelease, Ethan Tremper, Matt McCarty, and Courtney Gutai. They will all be receiving a formal certificate from Dr. Bali congratulating them on scoring perfect on the civics exam. There were 3 teachers involved in those students, teaching honors civics, LCTI civics, and civics in grades 9 through 12. Of the 103 students who took the assessment this year, 7 scored perfect. For a comparison, during the previous school year, 22-23, 9 perfects out of 79 students tested. And during the 21-22 school year, 3 perfects out of 109 students tested. So again, congratulations to our students this year scoring a perfect on the civics exam. Of the, let's see, just kind of some general end of year information. We recently held on May 31st our 134th commencement of Northern Lehigh High School graduating seniors. 99 seniors walked, 104 students graduated. That night, we'll honestly say, was pretty much perfect weather, which made it nice because we hold our graduation in Bulldog Stadium. I honestly think it was one of the best ceremonies we've had in my time here. I think that was my 7th commencement here at Northern Lehigh School District, and it definitely ranks among the top. Last Thursday was the last day for students, K through 11, and this past Friday was the last day for teachers. This year we had 5 teacher retirements. We are nearly fully staffed for professional positions and still working on a few support staff positions going into the 24-25 school year. And as a reminder, our summer hours started today for the district. So our hours offices are open from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and we are closed on Fridays. And that concludes my update this evening, Mr. Green.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item G, Business Manager, Ms. Molitoris.
Thank you, Mr. Green. We are going to do our budget presentation for preparing for our our June 24th meeting, where we can pass our final budget. I'm going to pass these down that way, and this down this way. These are going to be slides that are going to be within our presentation this evening. They are the potential one-time purchases and stuff that at our Finance Committee meeting on Monday evening last week, everybody asked that they wanted to see, put everything in, let's see what the budget looks like. So those are it. I wanted you to have them in your hands in case we get to that point you want to talk about, I want to keep this in, I want to get rid of that. You all have prices and things associated with that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Link.
Thank you, Mrs. Molitoris. Next slide, Mr. Hawes. Okay, we're going to begin kind of where we left off in May, or actually at the June Finance Committee meeting. And you'll see here are a number of kind of new considerations we brought forth in the past couple weeks for one-time purchases. I did get clarification from the company that provides us with our digital marquees, and he says the pricing still holds from the last time, which was actually about $48,000. We listed it in here for $50,000 just in case there would be any last minute cost to installation if the school board were to move forward with one or both of digital marquees. You will also see that we have, again, included the 2 dishwashers, the steamer, sound system upgrades of nearly $54,000, and stage rigging replacement at a high end of $200,000. We continue to work with the theater department and the theater director, Ms. Driscoll, and kind of the stage director, Mr. Shuey. We have some theater booster officers here this evening. And you know, we're thinking that'll come in around $200,000, but we will continue to refine that. Total expenditures for everything listed there for one-time purchases is $451,000, a little over $451,000. Total expenditures for the budget, if this was to be included, is $40,134,824. Next slide, Mr. Hawes. And this next slide has to do with potential reoccurring cost that may have that came up last time we spoke. And then I'll kind of read through these here, and then Mrs. Molatoris will give a little bit more detail on this section. We've included an additional full-time ELDP teacher for our multi-language learners. This is budgeted at a Step 5 Masters with family benefits. This would be a new teacher into the budget if the board so supported. Additionally, a full-time secondary music teacher. This was part of the discussion, and the board asked to see numbers on this at the last committee meeting. Again, $126,280 all in. So that would be for salary at a Step 5 Masters with family benefits. We've also are proposing to create a dedicated theater program budget of $35,000. Mrs. Molatoris will explain that a little bit in just a minute here. And a new music program budget of $10,000. Total additional costs, which would be reoccurring, are $297,560. Again, all in total expenditures would be $40,432,384, with some potential new revenue to the district from the theater program of $20,000. So that being said, I don't know if you want to get maybe a little bit more granular with that explanation.
Sure. So just like our athletic programs, the revenue from the athletic programs, from the ticket sales and stuff, come back to the district because we assume the expenses for all of the equipment that we buy for them and their coaches and co-curriculars. We pay for all that. So the same thing with the Theater Association. We'd be looking at funding them with $35,000, yet their ticket sales run roughly around $20,000. So we would take that $20,000 in ticket sales, give or take, depends on the production year, could be less than that, could be a little bit more than that, but on average somewhere around $20,000. Take that in and we would give them $35,000 in expenditures. Now what we are not taking, I actually went to their meeting last Monday night? Tuesday, last Tuesday night, and talked to them about this. We are not looking at taking over like their concession stands. They would still keep that. Just like the refreshment stand belongs to the teams and the clubs that work the refreshment stand, they can still keep all the profits from their refreshment stand. I also talked to them, actually with Mrs. Hunsicker out in the hallway, we talked about the programs. We would not be looking at taking over the program. Like it's a good program for the students to be able to work with Mr. Shuey or whoever in designing it, laying out it, printing it, and getting that all made. And then they would keep the donations from people that they go out and get program donations for, people that want to sponsor and be a part of the theater program. They would keep all of that. Any donations that anybody would formally give to them, they would become their donations that they would keep within their fund. So that's kind of what we're looking at for the theater program. The music program on the other side, Mr. Carroll has had in his budget this year, roughly about $5,000 to $6,000 is in his budget. So we're talking about supplementing that with another 10. There is items that the band boosters have paid for many years that the district feels should be expenses that the district pays for. Things like their music, things like their marching band music. Repairs of equipment and stuff that are the tubas and the large instrumental equipments that we keep. Here, that they are not owned by the students. There is also band uniforms. Now, very interesting about the band uniforms was the band uniforms, we bought them the last time in 2008. They were they were between $17,000 and $18,000. I'm going back to the years ago when I did band. It was these big, heavy wool uniforms that were like so hot to march in. And now they went into being actually like more for like your drill teams and that kind of stuff. So they can all be laundered. So they said that the kids take them home and they wash them. They were actually, they were actually created and at that time by the band director and the students. They kind of designed the costumes that you currently see. And what they had the ability to do then is those plans are still in place with the company that they use. They can call them up and say, hey, we need 4 more uniforms. And they can make them 4 new uniforms because the color palette and everything does not change. Some unknown reason, Mr. Carroll said he talked to them and it's something with the color palette that they can always have the same colors back again. So you never have to worry about them being discolored. He said his recommendation would be to do this season as is. At the end of this season, take a scale on what do we have, what uniforms need to be replaced, or are they all in pretty decent shape and we maybe need to just look at 5 or 7 new ones because of sizing of students, or they've been taken in so much we can't take them back out, whatever. So that's his recommendation, and then he said he would recommend like $2,000 to $2,500 every year being put aside in a fund balance so that when we get to year 10 and we need to buy new uniforms and possibly get a whole new set, then we would have money in fund balance to cover that cost. We're hoping the theater program, along with the music program, is going to start to grow. Would love to. At that point in time, years ago, they bought 60 uniforms. We're hoping it'll come a time where we need to buy 100 uniforms. So that is what the administration has sought after in talking with the Theater Association and the band boosters about helping to start supplement the arts within Northern Lehigh.
And I believe you said before that we are increasing the number of students going into the band. And that's encouraging to me that we are supporting the arts.
Yeah, our numbers at the elementary level and at the middle school level, I believe Mr. Hauser shared out the numbers at our committee meetings. For some reason, 70-ish sticks in my head for the middle school.
So we have about, I think the number 70 was
Percentage increase.
was the percentage overall. Presently, we have about 35 students who will be active in some form of band between 7th and 8th grade. But we're seeing about a 72%, I think it was, retention from the beginning of middle school to the end of middle school, which is, we just haven't seen that in some time.
And the numbers continue to grow at the elementary level. And we're retaining them now as they go up into the secondary levels. Thank you, Mr. Hauser. Okay, next slide, Mr. Hawes.
So this is just the fund balance screen that you have seen the last couple of months. It just says that at the end of the 2024 school year, I'm anticipating about almost $16.9 million to be in our fund balance at the end of the year. Next slide, please, Mr. House. Thank you. So the tentative big picture, if we actually look at everything that you actually have on those papers in front of you, our expenses would go to I have one too many threes in there, $40,432,384. We have revenues at $38,747,11, so our budget shortfall would be $1691,673. Of that budget shortfall, $420,000 are those first-time, one-time purchases that we've been talking about since day one, which is the technology upgrades, the piecers, money in there for piecers. So all of that taken down, then we would be still short $1.271673 million. But again, that's with everything on those 2 pages incorporated into that. And that is with no tax increase currently at this point in time. So whatever the district would decide to do with a tax increase, it would lower that 1.2 million. Plus, we also have the potential of $470-some thousand in additional revenue yet from the state if the state comes through. Not sure if we're going to have a budget by June 30th or where that's even going to shake out. I'm betting on no budget by June 30th, and I'm not sure where that'll shake out. But anything in additional revenues that we would get would be used to offset the shortfall that we currently have.
Next slide, Mr. Hawes.
Again, this is a slide you've seen. Additional relief for the homestead farmstead in Northern Lehigh School District will be around $73 per taxpayer in addition to what they received last year. So on their total tax bill of relief would be $427.78, give or take a few pennies, but that's right around where it should be. Next slide, please, Mr. House. So what's the impact on property owners? So here, we've seen this slide before. Lehigh County's total median assessed home is valued at $150,850. Last year's tax bill on that would have been $3,750.96, and that is before the homestead. So if you go down to a 2%, the increase on a 2% for this year in Lehigh County would be $76.57. Again, that does not include that additional $73 that we said everybody's going to see off their tax bills. So with the new homestead farmstead relief, an increase on a 2% in Lehigh County on a median assessed valued home would be roughly $3 to $4. And Northampton County is 178. And that is due to the steps and the recalculations of assessment values and properties that have sold, and the values of the properties have changed. So therefore, this is one of the years where Northampton County is higher than Lehigh County.
Next slide, please.
And these are the percentages that we are looking at for tax base. So originally, when we did our first round of budget, the 5.12%, we needed the $1,041,906. We're now at 1.2 and change, so we would need to raise it more than 5.12 if the board chose and wanted to take nothing out of fund balance and fund the entire thing with taxpayer dollars. If not, depending upon what percentage of increase you want, that is how much revenue and tax dollars the district will receive. So at a 2%, the district will receive roughly $458,412 in additional revenues. Next slide, please.
Okay, so our administrative recommendations, we will need to know this evening if you want administration to keep in the budget any of those one-time expenditures or any of those reoccurring annual costs that we presented to you this evening and are on the two handouts that Mrs. Baltowers shared with you. We continue to recommend utilization of fund balance for one-time purchases and appeasers increases. We urge the board to consider a tax increase in conjunction with the utilization of the fund balance to close the gap in addition to generating some revenue for upcoming years for possible construction or renovation projects. Also continue to look for grant revenue opportunities to fund positions such as school police officers and social workers. Most recently today, Mr. Mann received some good news that one of the grants that we submitted for improvements at the high school to remove some tiles that are there and install new flooring. It made it through the first review and is being advanced to the next round for review. That's the quickest we've ever heard that we've made it through the first level of review. So good job, Mr. Mann. Also to continue to search for expenditure savings as we do each year. So next slide, Mr. Hawes. And we'd like to open it up now to the board for any further discussion or questions, but also we are seeking some, I guess, kind of non-binding direction this evening for what you would like to see carried over for the June 24th budget presentation.
All right, so I'll go first. On this list of items here, what what on this list, I guess, is a want versus a need? And do we have any of this? We don't have anything built into the budget for any of this stuff. This is all for additional.
Which page are you looking at, Mr. Christopher?
We'll go to the first one, the one-time purchases. Of these one-time purchases, which one, are these more wants or are these more needs?
Well, we can always roll the dice and do nothing, but I think we will be ill prepared if that's our strategy. High school dishwasher. So the three top items that are listed there directly related to food services, we have listed in the order of urgency. So the high school dishwasher, and I would almost say the middle school steamer, they're kind of 1A and 1B.
Okay.
And then the Peter School dishwasher would be the least urgent out of those three pieces of equipment. Keeping in mind that the middle school steamer is already, sometimes it cooperates, sometimes it does not. The high school dishwasher and the Peters Elementary School dishwasher are both, I believe, about 42 years old, which is unheard of anymore. When we go into the theater, feedback from the directors of the theater, they are strongly recommending a sound system upgrades over stage rigging replacement. Administration agrees with that because the sound system's not only used for the theater, but really for all events that we do in the in the high school auditorium. The stage rigging is pretty much just for theater, but the stage rigging that we have now is inoperable. But they said that they could build a performance around not having that stage rigging, but it's not going to be as strong of a performance as if they did have the stage rigging. So sound system over stage rigging. If we don't do stage rigging this year, but we do sound system upgrades, I can tell you we're going to come back and recommend including that for the 25-26 budget. Digital marquees. You heard earlier this evening from Chief Jones how we would use those for emergency communications. That was part of his presentation. This was also when the school board asked the administration to come back with recommendations that could be considered one-time purchases to help spend down the fund balance. These are two fairly big ticket items that we would not just build into school building budgets, but rather look to fund balance to help us purchase and get them installed. So they're kind of almost listed in order of what the groups that we have worked with and with administration are recommending. For the reoccurring costs, I think you've been hearing throughout the school year that the number of multi-language learners that are coming into Northern Lehigh School District continues to increase. I can say that our ELDP staff, which we have about 2.3, 2 1/3 professional staff members in that department, and some of them carry other responsibilities like teaching Spanish course loads. This is an area that we fully anticipate will continue to grow in Northern Lehigh at a rate equal to what we've seen or more quickly. So we are recommending the full-time ELDP teacher. The full-time music teacher, this was kind of the school board asked us to come back and say, what would this look like? Knowing that it's our plan to continue to build the music department at the secondary level based on the numbers in the pipeline in middle school and certainly elementary, and what can we do to ensure by the time those children or those students get to the high school that we can offer during the day instruction for everything from general music classes to instrumental classes as well. The new theater program budget and the new music program budget, I think those numbers there are equally important for those two groups. And as I, kind of firmly and strongly stated last time, we need to start recognizing the value of those programs to the level that we recognize the value of our athletic programs here in Northern Lehigh School District. Great staff, great students doing great things, but I feel like maybe we're only scratching the surface of what they can do because they've been historically underfunded. So that's kind of how we're rank ordering those things for reoccurring costs. I can say, Mr. Crispin, you know, at my core, they are, I believe, that they are all very important to the work that we're trying to do here in the school district.
Okay. And one more other question. Going back to the homestead farmstead thing, and, we do still send notifications out to homeowners who have not applied.
Yes, every January it is mandated, and we have a company that does that and sends that out to everybody that has not applied to see if they can apply. Yes, that their property is not in homestead farmstead. Again, if it's a rental property, they can't get it
Right.
from homestead farmstead. So yes, we do.
And if that letter got lost, they can still go to the Lehigh County or Northampton
Or
County
Northampton
site
County
still-
and get, yep. They would reach out to Lehigh County or Northampton County and ask how to get on the rolls, and then they'll make sure they get their letter. that
And
they
that,
should get.
and again, that's a one-time thing. Once their property applies.
Correct. Once their property's applied, they're on forever until the property sells. Once the property sells, it comes off the rolls because the new people have to apply for it. That's
Okay.
correct.
Go.
Sure, I have a question.
Anything else, Mr. Crispin? Anything else at the moment?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
If we take the full-time music teacher off of this list and the 200,000 for the stage rigging,
Yep.
can you tell me what we would be at?
Sure can. We'd be at 40,106,104.
Can you put that slide back then that showed the
The percentages?
the fund balance? You had one before
Yep.
it. Yeah, that's
The
one.
fund balance slide, Stephen, that is the one with the yellow on it. Probably maybe around 30 some. Yep, you got it.
Ms. Moltores, how much of the fund balance is not committed to something?
How much is
I mean, the total is $16,871.
correct?
How much of that fund balance is not assigned? Probably a better way to say it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't see that.
That's
why I'm
okay. The committed is 2.478 million, and the assigned is 11,825,000.
And when we say assigned, explain that to me.
So the assigned fund balance is put aside for future needs.
Okay.
So things like technology, that's where we're pulling that $110,000 out this year for our wireless upgrades. I think we're doing. The one-to-one computer insurance, that's for repairs for laptops and keyboards and that kind of stuff that break if they would happen to need to replace stuff. Replacement equipment is for things like your furniture replacement, if a tractor goes down, if you need a new truck, that kind of stuff. Long-range maintenance is our buildings and our facilities, so anything that needs to be repaired there. Future debt service payments, so that's the money that over the last 2 years we've been taking, we didn't pay our bonds, so we stuck this in here so that we can use that to offset some costs going forward. And then this year we actually, with all of the new developments with the ELA program, and we know that's coming in at almost $300,000, we are looking at a new science curriculum in the near future. So we earmarked this year $650,000 for future debt service for future instructional needs. And that is what we're going to use that money for that kind of stuff. And then hopefully continue to add to that as we know we're going to need new programs.
But those currently are not part of the budget. That is in addition to the budget.
What do you mean?
The fund balance.
Yes, fund balance is like a home savings account. So
Right.
this is not anywhere, it's just your savings account. You pull from it as you need it for expenses that come up that were unforeseen.
Okay. Sherry, I think you had a slide before or after this.
Which one?
It had blue, no, it had blue writing on the bottom.
Yep,
Like
so
this.
that would be the one, the tentative big picture, I think. One more, two more, Stephen, one more, I think. Nope, the other way, other way. There you go.
That one.
Yep. So the original $420,000 that we had coming out for those one-time purchases for this year would take our fund balance roughly down to 16.451. If we took all of the $1,271,000 out of fund balance, including everything that's presented in front of you tonight, our fund balance would end up around 15,179. Now that will change if you pull off, like you just said, pull off the $200,000 for rigging, so that now becomes 15,379, and the 128,000 for the music teacher. You're up at somewhere around 15,500,000.
That does not include any money from the tax increase.
Does not include any money from a tax increase. That is correct.
Thank you.
And it does not include any potential money, extra money from the state. You also.
That is correct. That is correct.
You conducted this or mine, I guess.
You can.
I don't want this, Chad, I'm sorry.
So I'm sorry, are you?
Yeah, I'm finished, thanks.
Okay. So of the proposed budget, of the 40.432, how much of that budget is from recurring costs that we initially took on from ESSER funding? That we didn't have before, but we took it on from ESSER funding, not as a one-time thing, but as a recurring.
Yep. Yeah, that's up here somewhere. It's one of our first slides.
That's already in the budget forever.
I think it's already in there, but.
It is all in there. Yep. Did I miss it? No, that's the what's it called. Right here. So. Yeah, it was also here. Did you have the number on it? Or is it this one? There from the positions, not ESSER. For this one, right? That's non-ESSER funded. This is the other one. Oh, that's where I'm at, yeah. 474,200. Thank you.
474,
200.
and that is what again?
That is,
Those were positions. that
those were
created.
ESSER, right, those were ESSER positions that were now,
That we're now gonna be putting into our new
yes,
budget.
and they
now.
are already in the budget numbers that you have
That
in
we
front
have,
of you.
but this is this is something that, we have not used our budget for prior.
Correct.
Okay.
This is the first year it's going into our general operating
Okay,
budget.
that's good. Thank
Correct.
Now, I'm just gonna rewind just a little bit. When the ESSER funds first became available, was it recommended or not recommended to use those funds for recurring, or should they have been for?
Sure.
What was there state guidance?
No, there
On
was
it?
not state guidance. Everything was local decision. Administration recommended that we begin these positions through ESSER funding, continue them through ESSER funding, but also knowing that we were gonna have to plan to absorb them in our general operating costs. Through the years that we had ESSER fundings, we have since stopped funding the paraeducator positions through those and either continued to fill them through attrition, well, mostly all through attrition. The district-wide ELDP paraeducator, the classroom teacher, the technology integration specialist, and the one administrator, we have been saying over the years, please plan to continue to pick these up as part of the operating cost because they are value added, again, to the work and goals of the district. So I guess your root question was there state guidance on that? And the state guidance was, it's local decision.
Can I ask a question? Had we not received ESSER funds, would we have hired these people? I mean, would we have found a way to do this? That's my question. I mean, I as a business owner, I receive PP funds, whatever they're called. And I use them to keep my current employees employed. I didn't use them to hire more employees. So therefore, once my funds were expended, I didn't know anything back. I didn't have to worry about that additional overhead cost to my business, which looking today where we're at in our economy, I wouldn't be able to afford it. So that's where I'm just kind of like concerned that we are continuing with these positions when we really may not have had that money to do it in the first place.
So I'll answer your first question first, and that is, I don't know if the board would have hired him if that money did not exist. I don't know how to answer that. I do know how to answer that administration recognized the need and the opportunity that we do need positions like these to improve what we are doing, to improve the services that we offer here in the school district.
So overall, if we were to look at all these things that we're looking for, would we be now looking to say, hey, we need these positions and this is what we need to keep funding versus maybe some of the, and not that they're lesser, because I think we do need a new dishwasher, we do need a new steamer, things are, these are to feed the children. And, I agree that the sound system for the auditorium needs to be done. I do think we need an additional ELDP teacher, because there is an increase of language, deficient students. And I also really want to see the program for the theater and music get funded a little bit. But I think we also need to think about where the taxpayers are at this point too, because everybody's suffering from this rough economy we're in. I mean, the cost of everything is going up and it's becoming harder and harder to afford things. I have a hard time saying, yeah, let's hit the taxpayers with an increase again. I mean, over the past, I think 3-4 years, we've just been continuously adding increases. But then I also don't want to see doing nothing, and then a couple years from now we're saying, oh, now we have to raise 5% or something like. So it's hard for me to really,
Yeah, it's not an easy decision.
No.
I don't envy the school board members, but I will just kind of comment on a couple of those things, Mrs. Snyder. One, boy, we're really in a good position that we're even able to have this conversation because of the current state of our budget. We've been very deliberate in the last 4 to 5 years in when we want to spend money, when we want to save money. Kudos to you, Mrs. Maltors, for how you've handled that along with the school board. If we start to eliminate some of these positions, the ones that make up that $474,200, I believe that will be an immediate disservice to our students here. And what I mean by that is we have been improving. We've been improving with our curriculum. We've been improving with our professional development. We've been improving with our resources directly available to our students. And I think we've been responsible to our taxpayers because we have not been doing things like 5%, 6% tax increases over the years, which unfortunately some school districts have had to do, or they've been doing 0% for 4, 5, 8, 10 years. And now all of a sudden, they're going to the index and asking for the exceptions. And some of the districts out there are looking at 6, 7% increases with no gradual. They've gone from no burden on the taxpayers to an immense burden on the taxpayers overnight. I think that is more unfair than kind of keep it low and steady over the years. And boy, the fact that we're able to have conversations about things like sound systems and dishwashers and digital marquees, those are good, hard decisions to have to make. right? So I think that we're in a good place because of our track record of decision-making when it comes to our finances.
I will comment, sorry.
No, you go first.
I would say, Mrs. Snyder, over the years, one of our initiatives was the one-to-one computer ratios and things like that that our students are using. And going through the curriculum council and those types of presentations that Dr. Stoker is having with our community and staff, and not having those technology positions to help our staff learn, to help our students learn. I truly believe in that case, the ESSER funds, I believe if they wouldn't have occurred, we would have been having that conversation prior, because they started when we implemented that one-to-one ratio, that something needed to change. We needed that cohesiveness, and I think by having that department do that allowed some educational side of it. So to kind of piggyback to your question, I do believe that as we would have seen those requests, we were able to utilize the ESSER funds to kind of catapult us to that, knowing that over that time, we were preparing for that. That doesn't make that conversation any easier. And looking at some of these items on here, I completely agree. It's one of those things, man, I don't want to buy a new dishwasher at home, let alone have to buy a $60,000 dishwasher. But at the same time, I'm feeding a family of 4, and we're now feeding a family of 400 at any of our buildings. So when I look at it like that, that's critical to the health and safety of our students. And kind of looking at some of the items that most of them on here, I'll be honest, are safety and security, like the marquees and things like that we can use when hopefully never when we need it, but could use it then. And I am happy to start to see again the revitalization of our arts programs. I think that's really important for a well-rounded student. Our staff does a fantastic job with them. I see it. Mrs. Frank, you've done fantastic things, even, with things we don't have, and our staff's going out to do that. And I think that's part of our responsibility on the board, is to find ways to be creative. And over the years, I agree, it doesn't feel good getting a tax increase. I don't want one. I live in the district. But at the same time, I'd rather see it at a 1 or 2% than a 7%, which is what our current index is. So if we think about what that looks like, a 7% index for our district is what is a potential recommendation, which none of us can afford. I'd rather see it fiscally responsible as we look at bonds and things for the future and things of what we're able to do. So I'm in support of some of this. The rigging is the hard one to swallow, just because it's a little bit harder because it's a larger dollar amount, but understand the requirements of it and the reason for it because of safety and things like that. And it is an older unit, so any of those types of things we didn't have in the budget before, and through the administration and the planning of those, we're able to get ahead of some of it, which I think Dr. Link has indicated. So none of that feels good. I don't want a tax increase, but at the same time, I'd rather see some of those smaller changes that are big impacts for our students.
I agree with both of you, and that's what I was going to say. At this point, looking at those items, particularly the dishwashers, and knowing even in our home, a dishwasher lasts 5 years, say, whatever, or your washing machine. I would hate to see for a dishwasher to go down in the middle of a school year when it's needed the most, and we have to now replace it with something that if we would have purchased today is now going to cost us thousands of dollars more. So I do definitely see the need of this in here, and many of it, and certainly anything that has to help with the students and offer things to students, I want to see us, that's what we're here for. But I do want to, my question is though, looking at those projected and looking at those, of these 2 pages, and knowing what we had in the ESSER, we still have an opportunity though, if we see the more value as a person, I'm just saying, of these items, that we still can take away some of that in the budget that's reflected in ESSER's. Is that correct? You're saying to me that this money, this ESSER money is already in the budget.
The ESSER positions
Positions.
are not already
Right.
in the budget.
But if we see the more value in some of these, we can eliminate one of those. Is that still possible, right?
Yes. Ultimately, the board can decide to do that. Again, I want to reemphasize and reiterate that administration is not recommending that.
I understand that, but I'm looking at, if I'm gonna have to raise taxes, I wanna make sure I'm raising the taxes in the things that are going to be most important to students and possibly to the health and safety of our schools. So I'm just asking that question, because I need to, before we get into the June, I need to really, in my mind, come up with what I'm willing to say when I say I will support a tax increase, whether it be 1% or 5%, it doesn't matter. I want to be able to be comfortable with that, to know I'm doing that, and that's why I'm asking that question now. So some of those things that are paid for already in the budget from ESSER's can be eliminated in place of these, or these can be put in place of those. That's all I need to know right now, so that I can put my mind as to where I'm looking at the budget.
Yes, well, understood. I will just a point of clarification, these items here listed as one-time purchases, we are not recommending as part of a tax adjustment, but rather truly through fund balance.
For the fund balance,
To help
right.
spend down the fund
Right.
balance.
But also, over the years and so forth, I mean, I've been on the board a long time, that to lower the fund balance, and we need to do that sometimes, and I'm always in favor, but we also have to be very careful what we do with the fund balance. So, I mean, there were times when we were at 0, 0, 0, 0, and the fund balance was going down, down, down. And if we had a major roof issue, we were in deep trouble. So, I mean, I think we need to have a balance. That's all I'm saying.
So, Mr. Link, did I just hear you say that all of these one-time expenditures and stuff there, you were already considering it coming out of fund balance, not being added to the budget?
Yeah, we would recommend, that's why they're one-time expenditures. So we could, that $451,139 would come out of the fund balance, right? So any one of those administration is recommending pay through fund balance, not as any sort of tax increase. That's why, that's why it's important that they're one-time purchases. To Mr. Fedorch's point,
understand. Thank
that
you.
they don't, we're irresponsible if the fund balance gets too high, but we're equally irresponsible if we drain the fund balance.
So our ongoing cost would be if we were to hire all these,
Yeah, then it would be the 297,000 year to year that we have to have.
Correct.
Okay, I'm personally in favor of the one-time purchases. That's just my position. I'm comfortable using fund balance for those one-time purchases.
Yeah, I do. I want to choose my words carefully not to come across wrong. In a lot of ways, COVID helped this school district, and I'm going to tell you why. I had the opportunity of being the teacher of a first grader during that whole situation, my granddaughter. And what I found was, coming from, I'm going to say, my experience has allowed me to be part of this district for a very long time. And then, of course, I left the district as an administrator in another district, which is way more affluent, and was able to provide things 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that we're just starting to talk about now. The one-to-one program began as a push, my general feeling is because of the COVID situation and where we were with use of technology in our district. We were light years behind competing districts that are very successful. Yes, have more financing than we do, more resources than we do. So we have to be very, very careful. As a school board member and an educator my whole life, I often am balancing what is right for our community, but I also feel that my position on the board is what is right for the kids. those are our future community members. Those are our future neighbors. We want them to be successful. My role, in my mind, is I need to be able to create opportunities for our kids to grow. And if it means that we got to spend an extra $400,000 and it means we got to raise taxes a little bit, I'm going to put my neck out there and say I'm going to support it, because I know those positions that we're putting in place are going to have a direct impact with our students and the success of our students. And by eliminating those, all of the things that we're trying to do with curriculum, with technology, are going to stop. Maybe not stop, but dramatically slow down. So my feelings is, I like what we're doing, and I agree with Dr. Link emphatically that these are great conversations to have. I never thought we'd be sitting here thinking about this. And deep in my heart, and I know we're rolling the dice, I feel we're going to receive more money from the state, as was, I mean, it can't be promised, but it looks good. And I think with a very small tax raise, we can make this work. That's my feelings.
Anyone else, any comments? I guess the one comment I would want to make is we are constantly holding our staff and administration responsible for what are we beating up? We want to see grades improve. We want to see better grades. We want to see better grades. We want these better grades. Can't get better grades if you're not willing to spend some of the money to buy the tools and materials that are necessary to make that happen. I'm not saying I agree with every item on here, but nevertheless, if you just wipe them all off and then say, oh, well, we're going to give you low grades because our grades didn't go up, that's not fair either. It's our job to provide the money that we need. We've not done anything quite like this for quite a few years, so I'm going to move slowly with it. If anyone else wants to comment, please do. I'm going to first of all look at the potential one-time purchases. Okay? Administration is looking for direction. We're not approving the final budget, but we can take action on budgetary items tonight. Correct? Say yes.
You're not approving it, you're gonna give them guidance.
Yeah,
so
really good.
it's not
Okay,
writing.
say yes, thank you.
Guidance.
Okay, so we can do that. So what I'm gonna do at this point is look at the new considerations for one-time purchases. And I'm gonna look for a motion to either approve all of them, approve the first three since they're in potential orders or whatever, and see if we can come to some kind of consensus on what direction we want to give the administration.
Mr. Green, I don't think that you can actually take a vote on it tonight,
I think, why not?
because it wasn't on the agenda
Yeah.
24 hours
No
ahead of
motion.
time, sir.
No motion, but you can just get a consensus.
Yeah, you're
but
right,
no
you're right,
motion.
you're right. So we're not saying do it, we're just giving direction. This would be very similar to what we do at our committee meetings when we say you can put this on the agenda, okay? There's gotta be a way to work around this. There has to be. And so we'll do it that way. Is anyone here interested in directing the administration to put all of those on, some of those on, or none of those on?
You're talking one-time purchases.
I'm sorry?
You're talking the one-time
One-time
purchases.
purchase.
I'm talking just the first sheet, the one
I'd like
time.
to see them all.
And that would be coming out of the fund balance.
Yes, yes.
I'd
You're
like
saying
to see
you
them all
would
stay.
go along with that?
Yes.
Bob would, Gail would?
I mean, I think I need to know what rigging is. Honestly. I'm being honest, like,
So the rigging is what?
is it the backdrops?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, that's what I thought, okay, all right.
There was some discussion on that at that.
I'm gonna have a group of community members out there looking for rigging for Bob Kern. I'm just kidding. You know, I liken that to, you know, what if our football team needed new shoulder
Right.
pads? Well, what are we gonna do? We're not getting shoulder pads. Mr. Geist, put pillows on their shoulders. Make it work, because we're not getting, I mean, this is their shoulder pads. Yes, I agree with everything.
I would say since, you know, we do have a healthy fund balance right now, that I would be in favor of putting these one-time purchases on.
Okay. Looking this way?
I agree with that, and if we took anything out, and I don't want to take it out, would be the rigging. Let me just, but I'm not suggesting, I'm supporting that, all of it.
And Gary, I'm just gonna say,
and I'm a sports person, so don't anybody come after me, but consistently, there has been inequality between what we spend on the arts versus what we spend on sports.
I agree.
And I think it's a big expense, but unfortunately, that's what it costs. And I think it needs to be fixed. We're getting the sound system fixed, you get the rigging fixed, you're now opening the auditorium up for other organizations to use it. Maybe we'll get county band back.
Exactly.
I mean, there's revenue opportunities then if you have an up-to-date facility, and I just think it's time we do
Well, that's
it.
why I said I'm putting it all in there. I agree with that. If we had to pull something, that might be the thing. My point of that is also not pulling the rigging. I don't know what kind of expense we would be facing if we have an accident.
Is that rigging original to the building?
No, sir.
No.
That rigging is actually not that old. I believe it was installed in 2018.
Oh, okay.
And some additional commentary on that is, or I should say probably 2017, the fall of the 2017-2018 school year. And the reason why I know that is because one of the first issues Dr. Stoker and I had to work through was the failing installation of that rigging. It was already binding up, it wasn't operating correctly.
Okay.
The company that manufactures that rigging is now out of business. It's just no longer available. For very good reason. It was a design failure from the start.
I would hope that when we look into that we look at,
Someone who has a sound, years of performance and not failures in their rigging systems, and maybe some warranties and things like that, and, even if,
Yeah.
for that kind of money to have to be replacing it that frequently, that's substantial.
I agree.
We got Gary, we got, three others, Donna?
I'll go.
You're okay?
Yeah, I am.
I don't agree with the marquees. That's probably the only thing on that sheet that I do not agree with.
Chad?
Yeah, I mean, after, a good, healthy discussion, I mean, obviously the top 3 or 4 were,
Yeah.
I think, non-negotiable to anybody. But after hearing the needs and how long it's been and, other issues, I think it's, and hearing it's coming from the fund balance, I think it's something that we should definitely stay proactive about.
So is that a yes?
That's a yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think, I agree with that also. So I think you have, a majority of the board is willing to say, yes, we're willing to include those in the budget. How we do it, whether it's fund balance, tax increase, whatever, that still needs to be decided, but we've got that one.
Excuse me, Mr. Green. The only way I'm gonna do that is if it comes out of fund balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we asked that question.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the budget increase, not necessarily
Oh,
where
okay.
these
Yeah,
items
I'm
were
sorry.
coming from. And
I'm
the
sorry.
overall, when we say we're gonna have
Yeah.
an X number of dollar budget, and here's where the money's gonna come from, we know those are gonna come out of there. Okay, I'm not gonna try and do the same thing with the potential reoccurring costs, okay? Looking for comments, input, thinking. Well, where do you want to go with those? That's 290, almost 300,000 in reoccurring costs. Looking for comments.
I thought there was discussion of the potential of that full-time secondary music teacher to occur
In year 2.
in year
Next year,
2.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that still the idea, or would this amount be part of our next year's budget? or
So
this year's,
we
whatever
included
year
it in
we're
this
in?
presentation because the board asked to see the cost.
Right.
Right.
Administration is very comfortable revisiting that for the 25-26 school
Okay.
year. And we're probably gonna come with a strong recommendation because those kids will have advanced, those students will have advanced
Sure.
one more grade level into the system.
For sure.
That was my thinking also.
Okay, I just,
2 year.
that, so the first year would not be the full
Right.
297, the first year would be, whatever the heck that number is, 171. And then the year later, it would go up to the 297 plus or minus. Right, is that, thank you.
You're correct, 171, 280.
With that said, and knowing that we can put that off to the second year, and I certainly will support it in the second year because I think we need it.
I agree.
That
I'm just
Matt, I would
asking
put
in general.
myself out to say, I would agree with these positions being put into the budget because again, the 35 and the 10 is so small of amount of money when you look at our whole budget, that we don't want to cheat the arts, we don't want to cheat kids. These are going to affect children, our students. So I'm going to support that with the idea that we would pull the secondary music teacher out for this year only. My comment.
I would agree with that, Mr. Georgia.
I'm gonna look for nods then on whether that concept makes sense. Ms. Snyder, yes, yes? Robert?
I'm not sure. I mean, Mr. Hauser.
Yes, sir.
You were part of that discussion at the committee.
Yes, sir.
How many what would be the impact of not having a secondary music teacher?
I think for this coming year, sir, we would be okay because both Dr. Mbali and I think pretty much have our schedules set and our classes covered based on the requests of students. And Dr. Mbali, please correct me if I'm wrong. I know at the middle school we are covered with our general music. In the second year, when the bigger groups that are coming through now hit the high school, that's when there's going to be a need, particularly at that building, and it would be very nice to have a full-time person at my building or a little more time than what I have now. If I have to share it elsewhere, that's fine. I did revisit Dr. Link, Mr. Carroll's email, and the actual growth in the band program specifically. This year we had a 30% increase in band participation, building-wide. Next year it's projected to be a 60% increase building-wide. And the retention from 7th grade into 8th grade, which used to have a pretty steep drop, is actually the retention rate is up to 87%. And it's staying in the 70s of kids we're kind of surveying to go from 8th grade into 9th grade. So I think the wave is coming.
So our current situation, is our band department able to do individual lessons or sections? You know what I'm saying? Small group ensembles, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
This year, we were not able to do that. The priority this year was getting band rehearsal and practice and instruction as part of our enrichment program.
Okay, I remember that, right.
So that's what we did. We did that twice a week, 60 minutes a shot, and that's kind of, I think, helped sustain the program.
Okay.
As we move into next year, the way we are adjusting our schedule, we are making band its own individual homeroom, or what we're calling the goal team. So 2 of those days per week will be for full band, and then so long as students have other responsibilities completed, there may be room for more individual instruction. That's something we're kind of going to experiment
So you're doing
with.
some flexible scheduling?
Correct, sir. And then
Okay.
now the year after, if that person is dedicated particularly to the middle school with greater frequency, I would have to examine what a small group or possibly one-on-one instrumental instruction would look like. I know in some schools, for example, when I taught at Whitehall, that was a pull-out program.
Right.
Not ideal, but it fit the staffing situation that we had. But there are other ways to do that. I'm not prepared to discuss that yet.
I understand. And in the high school, because you're sharing one staff member, is it the same situation, Dr. Bali?
We have not had, I don't know the last time, Dave, do you know the last time we had music?
It's been a few years
It's
since
been
we've
a
had,
few
yeah,
years,
since we've
yeah.
had music classes run.
So
at the
this
high
is
school.
actually, this coming year is the first year we're actually gonna have someone over there half-time.
Okay.
So as Mr. Hauser was explaining, as those kids move up, to have someone there for them, I think.
But you feel comfortable that next year we're okay?
I think next year we're okay, and we're really working on building momentum.
Okay.
And building the program, and then I think the need will absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I just want to, so you're saying you're okay with it, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. As I'm adding this up, and help me out, the 297 also doesn't include the 20,000 for revenue reduction. does it?
That's on the revenue side of things. So I already added it onto the revenue.
You
So on
did add it
the
on there,
slide,
okay.
when you see the revenue, yes, it's
So-
added into there.
So if we do this, you're still looking at the 171, 280, is that right? Is that the number?
171, 280, correct?
Okay, it's not minus the 20.
Correct.
Gotcha, thank you.
You got it. Mhm.
Okay. Looking right, down here, anybody?
I made my point.
Okay. So you're,
I'm a yes.
okay. Anybody wants to jump up?
Yeah, so you're a yes minus the secondary for this year.
For this year only, yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
And I
We're
think-
looking at the 171 at this point, Mr.
Right.
Chrisman, okay?
Okay, yeah, I'll thank Mr. Kern for doing the dirty work of asking Mr. Hauser and Dr. Holly on that.
There's more than one reason we keep him around.
What else did he
No, it just helps
What else
drive
am
the.
I good for, right?
We can talk about that after the meeting, yeah, so.
But yeah, I'd be a yes on the 171.
Okay, ladies? You're both okay? Okay, so I think you have the direction you need, is that correct? Any other questions you need to ask?
It is, so I'll just give you a quick breakdown that I've been working right here. So we're looking at $139 coming out of fund balance. It was the $420,000 original, plus the 451 that we're just doing tonight. So that, and after I remove then the 126,280 for that music teacher, we are short $694,212 at this point in time. What you do with a tax increase will come off of that. You also potentially have the additional state governor's budget that wasn't approved yet as well. So I really think we can probably close the gap on
And that
this.
leaves us with how much unassigned balance?
Well, yeah, so I'm gonna take 451 out of, you're gonna make me do that right now, Bob?
Yeah, I was a phys ed teacher. Nothing, there's anything wrong with that.
All right, let me pull this up. 11,825, 483.
I did pull math in the phys ed
11,825,
class.
483. Oh, do you have it?
It was on there, it was on one of the slides I thought, Sherry, no?
I have the total committed assigned was 11,825,
11,825,
483.
correct.
And then I'm going to take away from there, let me pull up this other sheet now, 451, 139.
$11,374,344.
That's non-committed, correct?
Yep.
Yes. So we got 11.
Non-committed.
Yep.
Non-committed, yep. And there's a couple million in the committed.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And the assigned,
Assigned.
assigned, not committed, assigned.
I thought I
Correct.
saw 15 million something in the one slide.
Yeah. If we would use, correct.
Everything
So where
else.
would we be?
Not
We would
say
be
that
at a little
again?
under 15 million.
You lost me there.
So the 11, what ends up happening is the 11,825, 483 will still be there. Well, what's gonna happen is that 451,000, I'm gonna pull some money out of long-range maintenance stuff. I'm
Okay,
gonna pull
you're
some
gonna-
out of that,
okay.
and that will go up into the yellow area and say, this is what I'm using for one-time purchases.
All right.
So my number at the bottom's gonna stay the same. However, if we end up using all this out of fund balance and we end the year at a zero,
I got it.
that's gonna decrease then, and
Okay.
that's where you're gonna get to the 11,300.
So you're gonna do some adjustments with the
Correct.
already assigned fund balance?
Right, with the assigned fund balance, pulling these new items out of there and addressing it as to purchase for one time next school year.
Very good.
Correct.
Thank you.
Sure, just one question. What are we looking at for state possibly?
An additional 470 if it comes through.
Okay.
You're welcome. That I don't have in the budget. I have some in the budget. That's what I don't have in the budget right now.
I think there was also a comment too about cyber charter school funding decreasing, whether that's gonna have any effect on
Yeah,
the budget or not, I don't know.
I actually was at a Lehigh Valley ASBO meeting on Friday, and our legislative chair, who's been on the phone with HASBO, basically said they are at two different ends of the aisle on that, and that don't count on
Don't
that
count on
happening.
it. Okay.
No,
All right, thank you.
They said you should not put any of that in your budget.
Any?
Mr. Crispin.
I'm sorry, and one more quick question. Since we're talking about finances here, we still have the money invested in the CD, correct?
We sure do.
And the total money invested was what again?
8 million right now.
8 million.
And then as soon as I get tax revenues in August, I will probably end up putting somewhere around another 8 million.
And what was the return on the 8 mil?
$230,000 I will get in October,
Okay.
November.
But we have to keep that in there for the full calendar year.
For 7 months.
Oh, 7
I did a
months.
7
Okay,
month
7
CD.
months.
Yep, so it comes due in October and November.
Now, is 8 mil the most that we can?
I have 8 mil in a CD that's roughly at 5%, and I have the rest of our unassigned and our fund balance money sitting in an interest-bearing savings account right now at 5.13. So it's a little bit more better,
Okay.
a little bit better than what we're getting on a CD.
Okay. So that
A little
8
bit more
mil.
better. Not very good language. I should go back to school.
You weren't an English teacher either.
I'm a math person.
But that 8 mil came from the unassigned balance of the.
Correct. It
Okay.
came from our savings account. Yep.
I'm
you
just
got
trying to
it.
go full circle here.
Yep. No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there be no objections, I'm gonna finish item K, which is budget discussions, unless there's anything else anybody wants to talk about tonight? No? Okay. I think our brains are spinning on that, so.
I would just like to comment, thank you. That has been one of the healthiest budget discussions we've had in a very long time. And it's reflective of, again, I think, of the position that we're in, to be able to have the luxury, to have to be able to make these type of decisions. So thank you, school board, for all of that.
Okay, with that, we're gonna start to move some motions here. The executive, thank you very much. I almost missed that. Yes, we had an executive session at 6 p.m. It was personnel issues mostly.
Our safety and security report.
And safety and security report was about half of that. Thank you. Speaking of personnel, let's do item 5, personnel, A through, where does it go? K,
Oh, I move that.
O, all the way down to O.
I do move that.
I second.
A motion and a second. Any questions on any of those items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
And Mr. Green, I would like to then welcome our newest special education teacher at Peters Elementary School for next year. Mr. Matthew Klippel is in the audience this evening, and congratulations, and welcome to Northern Lehigh School District officially.
You just said Matthew. So
Yep.
we got another Matt in here.
Yes,
This is not
yes.
good. Yeah, this is not good.
Overwhelmed with that.
Okay, policy, I have items A and B, which are the student handbooks. There a motion to approve the policy items?
Motion.
Motion by
Crispin.
Chad, second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on those items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And so ordered. We have 2 conferences. Anyone like to approve those?
So moved.
Motion, second?
Motion and second to 11.
Oh, we got,
Rhonda was,
oh, I missed the second, I'm sorry.
second.
Okay,
Rhonda was first.
You were
That was
second.
okay, I apologize.
It was our side of the table's turn.
We have to act quick down here.
The ball's back here.
Where were we? Got a motion, a second,
Yeah.
discussion, question, none? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And so ordered. Curriculum instruction, we got items A through F. Is there a motion to approve those items under curriculum instruction?
So moved.
I'll second.
Well, that went well. Any discussion on those items, curriculum instruction? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And so ordered. Under new business, I'm going to take new business, which is item 10, A and B, okay?
Yeah, we can just do this first.
We'll do the A and B, and then, because we need to get a name for C, so we're just going to do A and B.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second? What?
No, new business A.
No, we're doing
New business A, B, and C.
A.
So-
No, I'm not doing C because we need a name in there.
Okay.
That's why
I
I'm not-
understand.
Yeah, got it, okay. I knew we'd get on the same page sooner or later. All those in favor signify by
I
saying
don't
aye.
think you have a
We
second.
haven't need a second yet.
Yes.
Donna?
Donna seconded.
Sorry, I missed it.
I thought Bob seconded it.
No, Donna did.
Mrs. Culp did.
Okay.
I missed that.
Okay, who seconded? Do we know?
Mrs. Culp.
Mrs.
we take a
Culp.
vote on
Thank you, Mrs. Culp. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and so ordered. Now, we're taking item C there, which is appoint blank, and we need a nomination there.
I will share that the most recent representative to the foundation from the school board has been Mr. Fedorcha.
Oh, I'd like to nominate Mr. Fedorcha.
The reason for this motion right now basically is the foundation has changed their bylaws. Their bylaws now state that the superintendent and a board member appointed by the board would be non-voting members of the foundation. As it stands now, anyone, including the superintendent, could be a voting member of the foundation board. What they are saying is because we may have a vested interest from the superintendent and the board that a board member and the superintendent shall be nominated and will not have a vote. That's the difference, and that's why that motion is coming up today.
So Mr. Fedorcha has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of closing nominations, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Congratulations, Mr. Fedorcha. Not only are you treasurer of the
Right, I'm on the,
LCTI,
I really put a lot of time into the foundation, and like you, Mr. Green, I believe we were founding members of the foundation.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Congratulations.
Okay, we're now moving to financial. These two are out. We're not doing those two?
Make the announcement.
Pardon?
Give an announcement.
We're not doing those, right?
You're pulling them from the agenda.
Yes. They're out, they're gone, they're done. We're at,
Announce it, though.
what's that?
Announce it.
I just did, we're done. We got too much financial stuff tonight, everybody's brains fried. Okay, new business B and new business C are pulled from the agenda. So if there's any questions, they're pulled from the agenda. Okay? We are now moving to item, 13, the financial items. And they go way back to item M. Is there a motion to approve the financial items?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions on all of those? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We have the expulsion hearing waiver approval.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion, second by Bob. We can't really talk about that, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And so ordered. Okay, I'm just going to take a moment on correspondence. I just want to remind everybody on the 24th at 5:30 p.m. we have two things on our agenda. We have a public item which will be approving the final approval of our upcoming budget, and then we will adjourn to an executive session to do the superintendent's annual evaluation, and he'll bring us up to date on where we are on some of the other items that were in the agenda last year. I would again this year ask people to think about comments they want to make during that. And if you have a problem with something, this is the time to bring it up. I think Matt's doing a bad job at filling water bottles. Bring it up, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're not going to talk about the fact that he does a good job of whatever, that we know that. Tell us where the problem is, tell us what we need to do to fix it, okay? And we'll kind of stay on that track if we can. That's all I have at this point. Is there any other correspondence anybody give? Okay?
Mr. Green?
Yes, sir.
Real quick, I know before we do the adjournment thing, I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Geis. We had, for arranging the Iron Pigs thing, there was a, what was it?
An officials recruitment day.
Yeah, it was an officials recruitment day, and I guess football had some things going on. Cross country was there, and there was a baseball segment, and myself and my kid were the only baseball representative on that field. So we got to play catch with the athletic director of Northern Lehigh and Bangor, Coca-Cola Park by ourselves. So took a couple pictures. It was a pretty cool experience. So thanks for shagging some fly balls. Appreciate it.
That's
Thank you, Mr. Crispin.
Pretty good.
Any other correspondence, any comments anyone wants to make? Okay, you have some informational items there, a couple of meetings. Are there any guests that would like to be recognized? Anyone? No? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor of adjourn signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And so ordered.
Thanks, everyone.